And we're live.
And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 18 of 3IT Guys. My name is Mac Ritter, as always, the amateur. With us, the man that never sleeps, Daryl Alexander, and our resident guru, Jeremy Lyke. Today's topic's a little lengthy and quite the spread on them. So, Jeremy, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off?
All right. So my first topic, which has been covered pretty heavily this week, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Linux, the kernel, has turned 25 this past Thursday.
Woohoo!
Yeah, on 8/25. There are several, probably more than anybody really wants or needs to read, but there are several articles out there. But the interesting thing to me that I pulled out of one of them was that there are now more than 21 million lines of code in the Linux kernel.
That's more than population of some small countries.
So,
It's huge. It's
you know,
huge.
I thought that was interesting, considering its rather humble beginnings as a student project, and how Linus didn't figure it would ever be a professional kernel and used in any major way when he started this thing. But times have changed, and Linux is everywhere. So
It's got fans and everything these days. It's all over the place.
pretty much. So that was my lead off topic. So yeah, it's become a pretty interesting project, and just the number of different companies and individuals contributing to it. Even the Evil Empire from Redmond, Washington.
Woohoo!
For better or worse, they've made some contributions. Having been in the Linux arena since 1998, I saw a lot of the bad times with Microsoft spouting different garbage about Linux, and I'm cautious at best, because that is a company that always does things to benefit themselves, and which I suppose you could take the argument that, yeah, that's what a company is supposed to do. However, they've had rather shady ways of achieving their goals in the past. So I'm cautious on this. So if I figure if they were really serious about Linux, then they would drop their lawsuits against the various Android handset makers and whatnot. But I don't see that happening yet. So time will tell.
Is that a tear I see in your eye, Jeremy?
No.
Oh, okay. Just check.
Mm,
Moving on.
Moving on. Yeah, I wish they could put a cap. It sounds kind of dumb, and I'm sure all the capitalists out there are going to punch me in the dick one of these days, but I wish they could put a cap on how much companies could make. You know what I mean? And then boost that. This was on the Joe Rogan podcast a while back about how he thinks that there should be a cap on how much people can make, because he says after $500 million, say if you make $1 billion every year, after taxes, how much of that do you really need? I mean,
Right.
Isn't $300 to $500 million enough? So him and some of his friends have kind of come up with this pipe dream of after you make so much, putting a salary cap, on the general public, and saying you can only make X amount, and then the rest of that money just kind of gets pumped back into the economy, which will never ever happen, but
No.
it would certainly save a lot of problems. And it kind of makes sense because yeah, after 500 million a year, I mean, do you really need anything else after that? I mean, most people would be fine with hey, if you give me 40,000 a year, if I made 40 or 50K a year, less than that, we'd be doing great. But
You know,
Yeah.
especially if we get a Tropicana orange in the White House.
Oh my lantern.
Oh my. All right, moving on then. Is it I said Sam I am? I guess I am next on the list. So again, I'm covering more of like the gadgets and the stuff that doesn't really matter a whole lot, but I don't know how long this has been out, but I strolled across it today, and it is iPhone 6 and 6 Plus touch disease. So the report is that, as the phone's internal soldering is under the stress of touchscreen usage, the Touch IC chip on the iPhone 6 series logic board can sometimes lose their hold. The first symptoms of the problem can be used, or it can be as subtle as flickering gray bar at the very top of the screen and occasionally unresponsiveness. But as the touch disease, quote unquote, worsens, the touchscreen becomes completely unusable.
Oh my.
Yeah, and they say the biggest culprit is the iPhone 6 Plus, so the bigger one. But I guess more and more standard regular iPhone 6s are becoming affected by this as well. So not a huge deal considering that the iPhone 7 is coming out rather soon, but I haven't really heard great things about the iPhone 7 either, so it's kind of like, so it's something to think about, I guess, if you're an iPhone user, which I am.
Samsung waterproof.
I know. Oh, I want it so bad. I want it so bad. You have no idea. You can you can leave it in up to 5 feet of water for up to 30 minutes, and it's supposed to be good. And 80% of the time, if you drop it, it's supposed to be all set. So you can drop it 8 times out of 10, it'll be all good. So it's kind of cool because we're getting to the stage of where we're making. You guys remember the old Nextel phones, like the rugged work phone?
I remember people having them, but I never used one.
Okay, well, basically, you could throw this thing up against a wall, and it'd be fine, because it was, covered in, like, rubber, and it'd just bounce all over the place. Well, we're kind of getting that way with smartphones now, to where they're kind of becoming just more rough and rugged and clean-looking, though, at the same time. So it's kind of cool that how far we've come just in, like, the last decade. It's pretty neat.
Nice.
It is, the last, like, 10, 15 years, it's like, man, technology and all these new materials, being put to use in good ways. It's pretty fun.
Well, we're going to design a warp engine.
All right. Is it dang it, is it going to be for the USS Enterprise?
Oh my.
All right. So that was my 2 cents on that. Daryl, what do you got? Top contributor to the industry.
Yes, top contributors to the IT industry. After reading several of those celebration articles about Linux and Linus Torvalds and the Linux kernel, which 4.8 is supposed to be released in the next couple of weeks, I wanted to see how did Sir Linus stack up to the rest of the people we may be familiar with in the IT industry. So I, Googled some stuff, and I got this article from ComputerWeekly.com, and it's the IT greats, top 10 greatest. Number 1 was Steve Jobs, Apple, and we all know about Mr. Jobs and his quest in the computer industry. Number 2 was Tim Berners-Lee. The World Wide Web, the internet, that essentially gave us the connection to go anywhere we want to through the internet, and that aspect of I can be in China, I can be in Poland, I can be in France, I can be anywhere I want, via the internet. The third, the Microsoft conglomerate, he's Germany's Donald Trump, Bill Gates. And he probably need that suggested salary cap you was talking about, Mac.
Well, the CEO of Apple just sold off like $36 million worth of stock.
Oh man!
So yeah, he's rolling in some money. Still not 500 million though, so he's below the cap.
Right. The fourth is James Gosling. James Gosling dealt with Java, and as you know, Java is kind of like in everything as far as is back end and front end language system, and it has integrated with a lot of other systems to make programming in Java very valuable in a lot of different fields, particularly web development. Um, Fifth was Linus Torvalds. Sixth was Richard Stallman. Uh, he kind of like pioneered Free Software Foundation. So a lot of the free stuff, open source stuff. Seven, I was kind of perplexed on because I researched it maybe for about a half a day. And it's a guy named Arthur C. Clarke. And they say he was an inventor and some other stuff. And I was trying to look for what he invented. He did a lot of history stuff. He did a lot of stuff, but it didn't. I thought maybe I had the wrong guy, so I went elsewhere, and it's the same guy. Eight was Ted Codd. Ninth was Steve Shirley. And can I get a drum roll? I think this is kind of important.
Well, which one is it? Oh.
10, Martha Lane Fox. And the reason why I found that very significant is because of the push by the women movement, the feminists of saying, you know, well, females don't contribute or don't get recognized to contribute stuff within the math and science field. Well, Martha Lane Fox was number 10 in the top. These are the top 10 of the IT industry. And that's very important because we don't want to say, you know, well, it was led or pioneered by all guys, whatever. It is females in the IT industry that does a lot for the IT industry. So giving that recognition to Martha Lane Fox, I think that was very important. Anything y'all want to chime in on?
Arthur C. Clarke.
Yes.
It's Clarke with an E. And he was the one responsible for the screenplay for 2001: A Space Odyssey. He was a big proponent of space travel and whatnot.
Yep. Maybe that movie inspires some things we don't really know about.
Oh, I'm sure it did. Between that and Star Trek.
First Contact, Mac.
Oh no. No. It's gonna happen eventually. I'm just saying.
All right.
Up, Scotty.
No, it's gonna happen, and religions are gonna tumble, the governments are gonna fail, everyone's gonna lose their minds. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Jeremy gonna have his zombie kit.
That's right.
Yep. I'm gonna disappear. No one's ever gonna find me.
Oh my Lanta. All right.
We'll just send the potato to look for him.
Yeah, right. You see how short and fat the potato is? He's gonna be one of the first ones to go, man. He's gonna be like, okay.
Well,
you guys
see,
remember?
I've got a different theory on this. Because you know, as Daryl has tried to leverage, you being the Brad Pitt lookalike of the bunch of us, I figure if the government tumbles, you're going to have so many women trying to get on you that you're going to be the first one to die out of sheer exhaustion.
No. At least I'll die with like a bunch of titties in my face and stuff. Hey.
Oh my Lanta.
No, back what I was getting to though. Do you guys remember the movie Mars Attacks?
Yes.
Do you remember Jack Black? Do you remember Jack Black? How he was like all super commando and he begins to shoot and his magazine falls out. To me, every time I think of that, every time I see Ryan, I think of that moment.
Oh my god! Wow.
Every time I see potato, that's what I see.
Shout out to our former classmate Ryan Martin. He getting it done, keeping it real, doing his thing.
Your former classmate, my former student.
Nickels and dimes.
Nickels and dimes.
Yeah.
Tomatoes, tomatoes.
Okay.
Okay. Oh man.
We circling back around to me now.
Yes,
I
sir.
just, I just
All
can't get
right.
that. I just can't get that Jack Black scene out of my head now.
Okay.
And the
So-
tab's going, it wasn't him. It wasn't him. It didn't happen.
My next topic is a file server in a USB stick. There's a product out now by SanDisk. It looks like a regular USB stick, but if you plug it instead of into a computer, but you plug it into a battery, USB battery device, or plug it into a USB charger, so it has power. You can actually connect to it like it's its own little server. So I think this is an interesting concept. It's aimed at mobile users, so you could leave it plugged in your car and have a bunch of movies and crap on it and keep the kiddies happy. But just like any other network connected device, I think it creates a bunch of potential security issues, especially considering how ignorant the population is on what they should and should not plug into their computers or plug in at all. And now that SanDisk has pioneered this concept, I wonder how long it's going to be before there are a bunch of Chinese knockoffs that are even less secure than the SanDisk model that is allegedly first to market. So I think it's kind of an interesting idea. The article, let me switch over to this. The article says they're available on Amazon in 32, 64, 128, and 200 gig models at $23.99, $33.42, $70.99, and $93.99 respectively.
That's not bad, yeah, actually.
We got to get one to play with, man.
So, I think it would be kind of interesting. Maybe we grab one of these, even the smaller capacity one, and do a review on it. Maybe a live demo or something on a future podcast, and practice our penetration testing skills against something like this, and see how insecure it is.
I'm with that.
So. But for $24, hell, it'd be a nice little experiment, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm with that.
So, interesting concept. I think I'll at least put it in my wish list on Amazon, and once I'm a little more flush with cash, jump on that and get one ordered.
Seems like a good idea. Essentially, it's just a really small external hard drive, but
right. And some of the hard drive manufacturers have done something similar with an actual hard drive, a wireless hard drive with a battery pack.
Right.
Oh my.
So.
Yeah, these just seems like, because it's amazing on how I don't know if you guys have seen Mr. Robot yet, but Jeremy, have you yet? I think you've seen it.
I've seen part of the first season.
Oh, well, there's a part where they're trying to hack into a corrections facility, and one way that they do it is they just drop some random USB sticks on the ground where.
That's a classic.
Where one of the corrections officers walking in, and a couple of them are kind of smashed and beat up, but then the one that they want to take it inside, he picks it up, he goes in, he plugs it into his computer, and then poof, some bad things potentially could have happened. But yeah, it's stuff like that happens every day. It's amazing. People go, oh, cool, look what I found. I find that stuff, I don't even pick it up, and if I do, I just throw it away. I don't even know. I want to know what's on here.
Well, you do realize that they've got a device out now that looks just like a regular USB stick, but when you plug it in, it'll fry your computer. It'll literally. It'll push a charge back onto the motherboard and fry it.
That's sweet. I have a feeling it's been around a lot longer than we think it has been.
If I were a person with a more nefarious side, I might consider putting those in the parking lot of a former employer.
Or better yet, just go in there and do it yourself. Just be like, hey, I found this in the parking lot. You want to tell me what's on it?
Yeah.
Oh no.
So.
Yeah, this seems like a pretty cool thing, and yeah, it'd be fun to get one and play around with it.
I just wonder, starting at $24, I mean, what kind of security are you really going to have on something like that? How much did they really put into thinking about that and testing it once they built their product?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just, in all, it's just a souped-up USB thumb drive.
Right.
Oh.
And if you plug it into a computer, it'll act just like a regular thumb drive. But if you plug it just into a power source, then it has its own Wi-Fi beacon, and the details didn't really come right out and say whether it created like an ad hoc network where you connected just to that device, or whether it connected to an existing network, which it could have implications security-wise depending on what route they took. So
yeah.
Well, we're gonna get back with y'all because we sure gonna dive off into those waters soon and see what's really popping.
So, all right. My second topic, which happens to be, did I put a third one on here? I can't remember. I did. Okay, cool. So my second topic is, rumor has it that Apple is likely to drop the popular 3.5 millimeter headphone jack off their phones. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I think it's funny that the Woz has told them not to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
The Woz.
Steve Wozniak. He was like, yeah, that's a dumb idea.
That is a very dumb idea.
Well, they have different charging ports than other modern and conventional products. So changing they're removing it. They're not replacing it. They just completely removing it.
Yeah, what they want to do is Apple has moved to the popular Lightning cable now, and what they want to do is basically make headphones. They're basically gearing you to buy. They're coming out with a new set of headphones that instead of having a headphone jack on it, it's going to have the Lightning cable. So you just plug it in and poof, you do everything from there. But with that, yeah, and they're going to make adapters. So they got a Lightning cable to 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, which to me though is still kind of like, now I got to have some extra accessory to go along with my phone, and to me that just stupid. And especially like I have a really nice pair of Bose earbuds that they're like $120. And it's like, unless I go out and buy an adapter now with the new phones, which I'm probably more than likely not going to get, yeah, I mean, it's all, most headphones, earbuds, all that stuff, it's all 3.5. I mean, why are they going to walk away from that? So, I mean, Apple's always been bold and kind of, doing their own thing, and people, religious Apple users and followers, they typically go with Apple's, they go with the beat of the drum. But yeah, that's definitely, to me, it's like they're just kind of running out of things to do, and like Galaxy is picking up so much steam right now, and really starting to beat them a little bit, or catching up very quickly in the handset race. So yeah, it's just funny that even Steve Woz said no. Like, don't do that, please stop it. And he even goes on to say that he has a pair of his headphones have custom ear implants. They fit in so comfortably, I can sleep on them and everything. And they only come out with one kind of jack, so I have to go through the adapter. And it's like, yeah, that's
wow.
Because like I've had one of those life-proof cases as well, and you have to have I don't know about the newer ones, but at least the ones for the iPhone 4, you had to have like a special like it was still 3.5, but you had to screw it into the life-proof case, and that way it made it like waterproof and all that crap too. But it was like this big bulky thing, and every time I wanted to put my headphones in, I had to plug that adapter in, and it was stupid and dumb, and I listened to my earbuds a lot. And I'm like, God, I hated it. So eventually I just stopped using the case after like a year and moved on to a different one. But it's like now we're going to have kind of the same problem with this. But the new Apple earbuds are rumored to be pretty flippin' awesome at the same time, and I'm assuming that they're going to have the Lightning connector. So it's like, well, what do you do then? So, but there's been rumors of, it's new, the iOS not doing so well. There's a lot of glitches. They're already trying to put patches out, all sorts of stuff. They're not having fun with this next lineup. So, we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll be the next cool thing, and all the other handsets will start going to that. I don't know, or something similar. I don't know. Who knows these days? So that was my second topic.
Alrighty then.
All right.
I guess it's my turn.
IRC versus the rest of the modern chat messengers?
Yeah. You a gamer? You know what IRC is.
You say gamer. I'm a casual gamer, man. Not even anymore.
Okay.
I can't remember the last time I picked up some sticks.
Well,
We've been
about
around in
an
this thing.
hour before this podcast, I was in a Linux chat group, and we was kicking around IRC versus modern chat. IRC is a internet relay chat, and it's done on a client server type thing where large groups of people can chat with each other in a chat room or private messaging. So the thing came to me because I do mobile gaming of some sort, and they have stuff like Kick, Line, what's one I had back in the day, Palringo, those different type of chat messengers. Yahoo got a Yahoo Messenger. So I was like, well, what's the big difference between the IRC and these messengers, other than what I see, which is emojis? So thing is, IRC, you gotta be a little bit about your wits. It has a set of commands you gotta learn and know how to use. Whereas the modern chat messengers, you can almost do text to voice, and then say emoji pizza, and so it's basically dumbed down and foolproof because it just is one of those needy things. I wanted to work for me like this. I don't want to have to learn anything else. I just wanted to work so I can communicate via chat. It's a lot of other different gamers that use IRC are really the big gamers. Be doing the Xbox One and the PlayStation stuff, and they get to chatting. They could use Hangouts like we doing and just kick the bobos, but Jeremy, you been in any IRC type environment?
I used IRC like 20 years ago.
Well, they still use it.
But the issue was, and well, it's probably been more than 20 years ago now. I got an actual internet connection in '96, but prior to that, I had various other more crude connections, whether it was a BBS or other dial-in type systems. And IRC has been around way longer than I've been online at all. But compared to other modern chat systems, well, IRC started as text only, and that's why there's the commands. There have been various attempts to build proprietary clients or somewhat proprietary clients that had a graphical interface, so you could click a button and have it enter commands for you. But much like Telnet and FTP, IRC is an insecure protocol.
Done over HTTP, correct?
No, it predates HTTP.
Okay.
So one of the things that they're trying to solve with the newer clients is security.
Right.
The other thing is how to make 13-year-old girls use your chat client. And
Oh my.
you're not going to get 13-year-old girls typically to use an IRC client.
That's a good thing.
There are a few out there that'll gravitate towards something like that because it's different, and to quote DJ Jazzy Jeff of the Fresh Prince, parents just don't understand, and so they're going to float under the radar and get away with something. Whether that's talking to an older man online, which used to be quite the issue. Now it seems like it's more same age kids bullying each other online, or at least that's what.
Don't want to end up on Dateline.
Right. That's what seems to be getting the media coverage these days, anyways. But it's one of those things where you have a lot of these different chat clients. They're trying to gain traction by having some, whiz-bang feature that the other ones don't have, and they're trying to get as wide an audience as possible.
Right.
So that's where, all the emojis and different things came in. I think a lot of those sort of originated with America Online, or AOL, as a lot of people called it back in the day. I never had to use it myself as a user, but I had to support people that did decide that they wanted AOL, and it was a pain in my hind parts because these people were basically computer illiterate, but they figured they needed to be online, and so, yeah.
That's where everybody is, bro. Everyone's online.
Right. But, yeah, so, I mean, IRC, I see that for the real techie type people, the ones that actually know what's going on and know the risks inherent with using that system. But
what's happening?
Go ahead.
No, I was just making a comment.
Oh.
You said people that knows what's actually going on. I said, what's happening?
So, I don't know. I think if there were a way to secure IRC, I think it'd be a great thing, but the system obviously has some major longevity to it. I don't see it going away anytime soon, just because it's so used in areas like the Linux developers. A lot of Linux developers use it for different things. So I guess that's my quarter's worth of input on the IRC. Because that sure was more than 2 cents.
Alrighty then.
Other comments or anything?
I got nothing. I don't really know too much about it anyway. I don't do too much online chatting to begin with, so.
Gamer slacker. Uh-oh. Can we get a drum roll for this rant? Because I know where it stems from. And it's Jeremy's next topic. Hubs in 2016. Oh, my lance.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yes.
Oh, goodness.
Grab a cup of coffee, people. This is going to be worth it. If you don't bang your head up against the wall or table in the next 10 minutes, you're okay. So, Mr. Darrell and I, we went to work at this client this past week on Wednesday, and we started looking over their IT equipment, their networking equipment specifically. And it's like totally disregarding that they had like 6 DSL gateway routers in there. That's a whole different topic. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is that they had a 10100 hub, a Linksys 10100 hub, handling the traffic of most of their network. Now, the interesting thing was the company that they bought this thing from had slapped a label on it that said 10100 switch, $20.
Woo!
And I don't know if they did that for humor, just to see, how long it would take for some fool to walk through the door and actually buy it, or all right, or what their intent was with it. Maybe they had some high school lackey pricing stuff. I don't know. But my takeaway from this is, here's a public service announcement, people. If you're using a hub to run your network in 2016, you're doing it wrong. You're just doing it wrong.
No way, man. They're on the up and up, bro. They're on the up and up.
So I did a little looking over some information, and I thought I would throw out a little bit of advice. So my first question that I've got on my list of stuff for this topic is, should you just up and replace your hub with a switch? Well, hopefully you got rid of your hubs before 2005, but if you're in 2016 still using a hub, the answer to that question is, it depends. If you're installing a new switch, you should take the time to check out your cabling and see if that needs to be updated at the same time. If you are in a situation running a network that you inherited from somebody else, and you weren't the one that ran the cabling, check it out. Make sure you don't have any standard Cat 5 or Cat 3 still in the mix.
Cat 3, what's that?
Yeah. So you should have a minimum of Cat 5e. The other thing is that there are circumstances where changing from a hub to a switch can create additional problems. So you should really try to do this kind of conversion when you can have a period of time to properly test and see if the changeover has created any additional issues. You should have a planned testing methodology ready to go so that you can perform the verifications and document your findings. This way, since we all have to answer to some sort of boss one way or another, whether it's the owner of a company or whether it's a supervisor or whatever, you can say, here, this is what we found, this is what we did, and go from there. So the other thing is, where do hubs have a use? Well, first off, not on a production network. If you are setting up a testing network, a hub can be useful if you want to monitor monitor traffic using a tool such as Wireshark. To use a switch for this and get the full effect of Wireshark, you have to have at least a smart switch, which supports a feature called port mirroring. So that's one potential use for a hub in 2016. You could donate them to a computer museum so that people could see examples of how far networking technology has evolved. That would be good, and cut the power cord in two and just let them display it. You could also donate it to a trade school or a high school with a STEM focus. STEM, again, for people that aren't in the know, is science, technology, engineering, and math. And basically so that students have the opportunity to see and potentially use older hardware and learn their features and limitations. Those are a few potential uses for a hub in 2016. I don't know, maybe you know some sort of creative artist type that might want to integrate it into an art project.
Wow.
I mean, I'm just pulling things out of the air now, but
Well,
um,
why don't you go ahead for anyone who's listening that doesn't know the difference between a hub and a switch and why switches are so much more productive, especially in today's era. And yeah, like 15 years ago, still were a lot better choice than hubs. So go ahead and explain what a hub does, and then we'll
okay.
explain a switch.
Okay, so you can think of a hub like an outlet strip, an electrical outlet strip. You plug one end into the wall, and you get power to each of the receptacles on that outlet strip. The hub does the same thing. You plug it into a network, and any traffic that comes through on one port is duplicated on all the rest of the ports.
All the ports.
Right. So a switch, by contrast, and if you are familiar with Cisco stuff, Cisco people would call a switch a multi-port bridge. And so basically, what this will do is it's got a little table. Think of like a two-column Excel table or spreadsheet in its memory, and basically it will learn. Port 1 has this MAC address attached. Port 2 has this MAC address attached. Port 3 has nothing attached. Port 4 has this MAC address attached. So when a message comes in, it will only send the message on to the corresponding port that has the proper MAC address attached to it. So you get a lot less of a chance for collisions on your network. You get a lot of a lower likelihood of snooping to be going on, for people to be receiving your messages and doing something with the information that was only supposed to come to you. It's also better for a security standpoint.
Yep.
So does that pretty much cover what you wanted me to say about that?
Oh yeah,
Good job.
absolutely.
Without
Yes.
going overboard?
Yeah, so I mean, a hub basically receives something and then it sends it to everybody. Poof. And what a
Right.
switch will do will start to learn MAC addresses of different computers that are plugged into certain ports. And so when a packet comes in, poof, the switch will read it and say, okay, it goes out to this port instead of going out to all the ports.
Right.
And that's what makes, yes, like Jeremy said, a lot less collisions, a lot less packet losses, harder for attackers to kind of snoop around your network, things like that.
Right.
You guys were fabulous.
Yay! Wasn't that a great group effort there?
Yay, we know the difference between hubs and switches. Woo! Well, hopefully our listeners will too as well. So, but I mean, in a small environment, if that's all you got, if you only have maybe 3 or 4 computers, sure, a hub is fine. But yeah, on like a production level, with a lot of different nodes on the network, hubs are bad juju. Bad juju.
Yeah. I mean, considering that in my apartment I've got nearly 30 devices attached, I wouldn't even want a hub in my apartment. So.
I was gonna buy you one for Christmas. A smart hub.
Oh.
Yeah,
Isn't that special?
They've got Genius hubs out now too. They're not just smart; they're Einstein. Yeah, so hubs are awful. Don't use hubs anymore. And I'm sure there's going to be someone out there that's going to be like, hubs still share a very good use in the work environment.
Yeah, they go from being mounted on the wall to being part of the trash can.
Yep. They're a good paperweight. Or RC Cola.
RC Cola.
Get it, buddy. We are not endorsed by RC at all. We're just fans.
Yes, we are. I can remember back in the day, my dad would bring home RC Cola in glass bottles, and they had the little. They came down at an angle, and they had a little curve in the middle, and they went down to the bottom. And yeah, way back, I've been a fan of RC Cola.
RC and Crown Royal, baby. Woo, buddy. Okay. So any more on the hubs?
No, that was it. Unless Daryl has something to add.
No, you covered it.
Okay.
I think you got it, man. So the moral of the story is hubs. This is what you get. That's what when we see hubs, we're like, oh my Lanta. Whoever set this up, either y'all were in a hurry or y'all didn't know what you're doing.
Or somebody was hitting a little too much ganja weed.
Oh my Lanta.
Smoke the ganja, man.
Okay, what's your topic, Mac?
Well, it's not really a new topic. It's something I think everybody knows. But Windows 10 dropping the ball again. So Windows 10 on their anniversary update killed a bunch of webcams, a bunch of USB webcams. The long-awaited Windows 10 anniversary update arrived earlier this month, bringing a number of new features to Microsoft's latest operating system. But some users found it introduced a few less welcome changes, such as breaking their USB-connected webcams. So I guess from what it says Microsoft's anniversary update allows multiple Windows 10 applications to use a webcam at the same time. Previously, if you were Skyping with one, for example, you couldn't use the camera with other services. So basically, it was supposed to make it so you can multitask with your webcam. And yeah, instead it just broke all of them.
Ruh-roh, Raggy.
Right? So that kind of stinks. Like if people, I know like a lot of gamers, they record their, or even us, like we're recording right now via webcams. We don't have any fancy like Canon cameras or anything like that. So I mean, a lot of guys that do like Twitch or live streaming of like gaming or whatever, and they've got kind of a cheap setup right now, they might be kind of out of luck. So that kind of stinks. But they said that they're working on a patch, but it's not expected to be out until probably late September. So
late September.
Yeah, and they're not really.
Can I add something?
Add it away, baby.
Okay. There was an article similar to this. It's also Windows 10 related. I shared the last night of class last week on Thursday. Windows 10 will now crash with a blue screen if you plug in, I believe it's a Kindle Paperwhite or a Kindle Voyage. It'll just up and blue screen for you. So I had a student that actually had a Windows 10 machine in class on Thursday night, but for some reason she would not let me plug my Kindle into it just to test whether or not it would crash.
Nefarious are you?
I don't know why, but I thought it was a good scientific test that we could have performed there.
So I mean, does it like absolutely break it, or can you unplug it and reboot and it's fine?
From the article I read, it sounded like you could unplug the Kindle, reboot, and it would be more or less fine. But I have not plugged my Kindle Paperwhite into my Windows 10 laptop to test this theory yet.
Go ahead, go for it.
Come on, man.
Maybe I'll test it out this week, and then if it actually does crash it, but it's recoverable, then I'll do it live on the air next week.
All right, then.
So,
because obviously Windows 10 has had its hurdles it's been trying to get over, and now it's like, man, they just keep coming, it seems like. So I don't know, a bunch of guys at work, they say they run Windows 10 at home and they're not having any problems, and
right.
They use, I don't know, what is it, Microsoft Security Essentials now, Windows Defender is
right.
kind of dead. they say they just use the security essentials as well. And now, mind you, these guys are trained IT professionals, so they kind of know what sites to go to and what not to, and not to be click happy on stuff. So I guess that's fine. But me personally, I'm like, if I'm running a Windows machine, I want something else running in the background other than Microsoft Security Essentials. So that's just my take on it. But I mean, the enterprise level I hear is pretty top notch. From what I hear, anyway, it does a pretty good job. But
and that protects the warp engine too.
Yes. So it doesn't break when we're in mid warp.
Wow.
But I know, like, personally, when I'm at work still, I still default back to like Malwarebytes or Rogue Killer. I don't hardly ever do the Security Essentials scan. One, for me, even a quick scan takes too long, and I just don't think it picks up everything anyway. So now I have had a lot of users, not a lot, but I have heard, I did have a user tell me one time, like after I cleaned up their PC a little bit and helped them out, and mind you, this computer was exceptionally messed up to begin with, and I told him, for what you're doing, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to help anyway. He was doing his own thing, whatever. So I scanned with Malwarebytes and a couple other tools that I have and cleaned his computer the best I could, and gave it back to him, and he said he went home and he ran Windows Defender or whatever and still found some stuff on it. And I was like, well, go fuck yourself then. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, this thing was it was one of my brother's computers that when the first time I scanned it, it had like 7,400 hits on it. I mean, just something ridiculous. Yeah, and it was so gunked up that I couldn't even remove all of them at once. I had to do it in 3 different segments. So I was like, oh, geez, oh, Pete. So it's like, I'm not surprised you found something on your own.
Right.
If you're such a professional, then why'd you bring it to me to begin with? So, I don't know. There's always that controversy, but like I said, I still don't trust. I don't trust really hardly anything Microsoft. So that's just me personally. And I guess that's the main reason is like, you guys know I've been running Ubuntu at home now for 6 months or something like that, 6 or 7 months. It was a computer that Daryl and I and Jeremy built, and we slapped Ubuntu on it because it was free, and that's awesome for us. And there's been, like, I was telling these guys, like, hey, I haven't really had to troubleshoot Linux a whole lot, and Jeremy said it perfect. He said, that's just because the damn thing works. Like, you don't have to worry about it. Set it up and forget it. So, and it seems like whenever I'm working with Windows stuff, I'm always tinkering and doing something with something, so.
Oh,
Jeremy,
my.
get off the phone.
Jeremy's about to get company.
Quit texting Linda. Stop it. You're on the air.
What? Oh.
Dude, you really want to go there?
Okay.
Bring it on, baby.
You really want to go there?
My next topic is, Jeremy might get upset about this too, but I know he know about it. Pegasus. And we're not talking about the next galaxy over with Alpha Centauri and Star Trek. We talking about,
man.
Yeah. Apple. 3 zero-day files on the iOS system. They call it the Pegasus. And this article is from scmagazine.com. Trident Apple vulnerabilities used in Pegasus spyware article 518555. It says Citizens Lab and Lookout researchers detected an active spyware capable of exploiting 3 iOS zero-day vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities collectively dubbed Trident were combined into a malware named Pegasus by the NSO Group, an organization that reportedly specialized in cyber war, according to an August 25 Lookout blog post. Pegasus is highly advanced in its use of zero-day obfuscation, encryption, and kernel-level exploitation in the malware has been active for some time, the post said. Researchers believe the spyware has already been used in the wild for state-sponsored activities, including against a Mexican journalist who reported on corruption by Mexico's head of state and an unknown number of targets in Kenya. The malware is spread, the post said, through a basic phishing attack sequence, which includes a text message, open web browser, load page, exploit vulnerabilities, install persistent software to gather information. The issue was disclosed to Apple 10 days before the update was rolled out, and judging by the speed by which Apple responded, the vulnerabilities were treated as critical within Apple. Guillaume Ross, a senior security consultant at Rapid7, told scmagazine.com via emailed comments. This attack basically exploits an issue in Safari, exploits the kernel to effectively jailbreak the phone and then persist onto the device, Ross wrote. Jailbreak software is regularly released publicly and exploits such as vulnerabilities, but with a major difference. This software exploits the iOS device locally over USB or such an interface, and not simply by clicking a link through that, though that has occurred in the past. Ross said detecting attacks such as this is extremely difficult after the fact. We were made aware of this vulnerability and immediately fixed it with iOS 9.3.5. An Apple representative told scmagazine.com on Thursday via emailed comments. We advise all of our customers to always download the latest version of iOS to protect themselves against potential security exploits. Zero-day attacks like Trident are extremely valuable in the world where IT is used as a weapon, and the vulnerabilities are especially valuable to nation-states looking to obtain data. Cesar Gerlati, chief security strategist at the PRPL Foundation, told scmagazine.com on Thursday via email comment. Mac, it's a good time to get that Android or that Samsung.
Woo!
Yes.
Man. Well, that's all going to happen. Everybody, there's this big thing where the average user has been, told the good rumor of that Apple devices and like Macs are completely they're not vulnerable to malware and things like that. Same thing with Linux. There's a big common misconception of that, and that is not true. If you are watching, say, if you go to a bunch of naughty adult sites, even on a Mac, you're going to pick up something eventually. Maybe not the first time or the second time, but something that eventually is going to get on your computer and mess your stuff up. Same thing with Linux. Linux is not completely invulnerable. So goes to say, though these devices have proven to be more secure than Windows, Microsoft products, they're still not, they can still be tainted. So, obviously be careful. And from the article it says that it's induced by like USB exploits. So someone could come in and plug something in on your network and potentially infect the whole network. But that's why there's other security measures in place, I guess. So.
Hey, very well put, young Padawan.
Well, I can't tell you how many people I've come across. I go, hey, I have a Mac because it's basically, you can't get viruses and stuff like that. Like, not completely true.
Right.
So.
Who are you?
The only viruses on the Mac are, built for testing purposes, and I mean, there's nothing that exists out in the wild right now that's known. But with that being said, the big argument for having a virus scanner on a Mac at all is not so much that Macs are vulnerable. It's just that people that run Macs generally have to exchange files with people running Windows. And so if somebody running Windows sends a Mac user something with a virus, it's not going to infect the Mac because it's built for Windows. But if that Mac user then sends that file back to the Windows user or to another Windows user and it infects that person, then they're going to deduce that, oh, well, the Mac has a virus. And, so, I mean, there's if you're using a computer in isolation, then you don't need to have virus scanner on it. But if you're connected to a network, if you're exchanging files with anybody, then yeah, get some sort of protection or take some sort of precautions. I really haven't been following the iOS stuff too much because I'm just not an iOS fan. It cramps my style. But I think even Apple itself has fallen into that. We're more secure than Android. Well, yeah, sure, but you don't have 100 different Chinese knockoff companies building handsets using your software and then deciding not to ever update it.
Right.
So it's a completely different ecosystem when you come down to it. And then nobody uses Windows Phone because there are no apps. And BlackBerry is missing in action, or maybe it's a prisoner of the handset wars or something. I don't know.
Oh, I saw someone with a BlackBerry the other day, and I told him, I said, "Good for you, man. Good for you. Way to keep it alive."
Yeah.
I hadn't seen one in so long, and I just said, "Good for you, man. Way to keep fighting the good fight, bro."
So it's interesting. You're gonna have you're just gonna flip flop back and forth between Apple, Mac OS and iOS and Windows and Android and all this kind of stuff. You're gonna flip back and forth. For a while, one company is going to have a better product, and then one of the other companies is going to build a better product and have that on the market for a while. It's no different than GM and Ford. Back in the late 70s, going into the early 80s, Ford had all kinds of transmission problems, and if the government hadn't basically saved their butts by letting them get away with pasting a sticker on their dashboard, talking about the possible transmission issues of these vehicles, they would have had a huge recall and potentially put them out of business. So, it's there are parallels to be drawn in other industries as well. So at that time you had all the GM people ragging on Ford. Well, when government bailed out GM, you have all the Ford people ragging on GM. So it's nothing is static. The way the world is changing these days, and 3 months can be a very long period of time, and things can change greatly in that amount of time. So,
Right. Well, another thing to think of too is most of the general population is using Windows. So
sure,
the bigger you are, the bigger target you have on your back.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yes, most malware and spyware and viruses and all that stuff is all engineered and designed and aimed towards Microsoft.
Right.
So I mean, I'm sure if Apple was the big, if Apple had gotten in the race first and done all that, I'm sure this conversation would be completely flip-flopped in today's day and age. You know what I mean? If they would have gotten
Apple
in
was
first.
there first.
Whatever.
Oh, my Lanta.
Apple was there first. They beat Windows to the market, but with their proprietary machines, they didn't sell as many because of all the clones coming out for the IBM PC.
True.
So you know.
So I got my dates wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of telling too, because for years people would tout how easy the Mac was to use compared to Windows, and now apparently Microsoft has finally got the memo. They're making Windows easier to use, but they're taking customizability away from the power users. They're,
Right.
basically, you could do this and this, and if you want to do anything outside of those things, then you're SOL, or you've got to shell out a bunch more money to buy our higher end product. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. With all the stuff that has moved to the web in the last 5 to 10 years, even, making a desktop OS is less and less relevant. It doesn't really matter as much if you're running Windows or Linux or Mac on your desktop.
Right.
Okay.
So, and you know, who knows? The same might be true about, you know, handheld devices in a few years. Once they get powerful enough that, you know, you can have native acting web apps on your mobile devices, you know, it's going to be the same kind of game all over again.
Right.
So,
well, it's 9:08, so we didn't went through our topics, fellas. Any closing thoughts?
Go Linux.
Alrighty then.
May the computer gods have mercy on our souls dealing with this client in Grand Rapids this week.
Oh my Lanta.
Oh goodness.
Take us out, Matt.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. In a couple weeks, we will have our first special guest on the podcast. So, anybody out there listening, tell your friends, and hide your kids, and hide your wife. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 18th of the 3 IT Guys. Catch you later.